Hey folks, welcome back to the Empathy Lab. You never guess what happened. Mercury retrograde. I was literally 10 minutes into recording this episode just before. My phone, because I decided that this year I want to be more present, I put this app on my phone that shuts down things so that I'm not ticky. And it shut down the podcast I was recording before. So off the cuff, here I am back again. Folks, it's Sunday. It is Sunday, March 8th. Welcome to the Empathy Lab. My name is Selena Tatum Isles. I prefer to be called Tatum. Okay? Like, I don't know if anybody's ever noticed that. I prefer to be called Tatum. So, welcome back here. I'm kind of coming in laughing because I'm like, Mercury, just her braids, your braids, girl. Wow. You know what, guys? We're episode 10. Okay, 10 episodes in. You all have tuned in and listened to me when I was just running 4-minute episodes, and now I've realized that my episodes are only going to be 21 minutes long because I'm a busy mom, I'm a wifey, I'm a researcher, I'm all over the place. We are all really busy. Our attentions, not the bargain basement deals they're trying to give us for our attention, folks. I don't want to do that to y'all. I don't charge for any of my substacking, nest labbing, LinkedIn things that I put out there, how I went or how I code switch and make the language attainable and accessible for you all. Someone asked me, why you keep it 20 minutes? Because we only have 20 minutes of attention time, in all honesty. Am I shitting on any other podcast? No, because I get into hour long, half an hour long podcasts. My folks who I know are chasing happiness, they're exploring the elusiveness of happiness. 20-minute shots. Why? Because this is going to be written, right? It'll be written as a thesis for the academic demic folks and for those folks who are like guru, etc., etc. And it's going to be published in ways you guys have probably seen. Substack field notes. These are literally pieces of chapters, right? We're currently in chapter 3, which is the empirical evidence, which is what they call going out there and actually making the world your lab. So the Empathy Lab, episode 10. Thank you everybody for staying with me this long. I want to give you all of that backstory to let you know my intention is just to is not just my intention is tools for getting through life, a rain jacket for when it's raining on you or when you're raining on yourself, a hammer for when you want to build something, you know what I mean, a shovel when you want to be the expander, you want to take down a wall instead of putting up a blocker, like we talked about last week. The most important, and not the most important, but the most expensive, one of the most expensive words in the English language is but. Over the episodes, we've looked at, the architecture of but, what a somatic shrink is. We looked at, bypassing, or what I like to call structural bypassing, the false straight line. We looked about the architecture of silence. I've been teaching you about just all kinds of stuff that we do to ourselves every day on our trip to I want to be happy. All I want to be. Mary J. Blige, she said, I'm not going to sing here on this because it's 9:04 in the morning and I still have morning voice. My coffee is still beside me. Anyway, all of that enthusiasm was just say thank you. Thank you for tuning in to me the last couple of months, 10 episodes. The stuff is different. It's heavy. It puts you in a mood. You all are fall over at Nest Labs doing the actual experiments that we run in the Empathy Lab for a week. So we're like all in community talking about it. Those of you that argue with me in the comments, that send me text messages, please keep doing that. Please keep asking me questions. I'll never out you, but I know the work is landing and I'm so happy that you're here with me for that. Okay, I'm Tatum. As you know, Selena Tatum Isles Brochu, like to be called Tatum. So here we are. Last week we talked about the words that we weaponize against other people. So last week talked about the buts. Okay, we talked about what else was in there. We talked about the glacier that it comes up with. So the asamita, the egoism, right? We talked about I'll just do it myself. We talked about I'm fine. We talked about with all due respect per my last email, all right? Or say sorry and mean it. Those are all weaponized. I'm not saying every time you say but is a weapon because I had people screaming at me like, but Lynn, I use but all the time. And does that mean I had another individual who was like, my wife uses but on me all the time in an argument. And I feel like I am just shrinking into the wall. So I could feel that this was touching you all. This week, we're going to look at the sentences that shrink us. So the words that we weaponize against ourselves, right? And what that means is we're turning the mirror around, right? We're turning the mirror to look at the weapons that we hurl missiles out there. Welcome to World War III, guys. As I said, I don't get political on the show, and I make a political quip or so. Those of you who know my history know what, outside of being an anthropologist, know why I'm able to do this. So how I wanted to caveat this is to give you something that happened to me a couple of days ago. So we're in the lab, we're gathered, we're talking, we're all in here, and we get into the lab, we get into journaling, we get into looking at some scouras, we get to talk about the vitrees, the things that are popping up, because this is how we create antidotes, right? To the shit that we're out there doing to ourselves. And because we're doing it to ourselves, we think it's okay to do it to another human being. All right. So we're in here, we're talking about things, and I had this episode in mind, right? I didn't say which one, I didn't talk, not necessarily this one, but I had this episode in mind. And cross-functional meeting, here we are, we're all talking, we're in community. And my recommendation for my episode, real one, researched it, tested it. People are like, how the hell do you test emotions? Like, how do you do that, Selena? I'm going to tell you that in April, possibly May. And had the data with it, something that came out of months of pattern recognition, because that's what I do like a boss, which is why I'm an amazing DJ, is pattern recognize, right? When I opened my mouth to present, my whole idea came with the same energy I'm in here for episode 10 with. Do you know what came out? Do you know what the fuck I said? Okay, 6 minutes in, so I'm pretty much on my target here, because I cussed at 7 minutes and 18 in the last one. 6 minutes in, do you know what the fuck I said, guys? To folks that love this work, believe in this work, give me their time for this work, their pesos for this work, okay? I opened my whole thing. Hey guys, I think maybe we should just look at it like this. Just maybe look at it. And you can feel the shrink. I built the architecture. I had everything together. Damn, I even had a PowerPoint presentation as to why this would be awesome. Okay? Do we do PowerPoints in the lab? Not really. We actually do PowerPoints when we gather to teach ourselves things about each other. So we do PowerPoints on ourselves. Anyway, join the lab if you want to get to be part of that. In the moment of my delivery, I patted the damn thing. I softened it. I wrapped my clarity and my intelligence and my curiosity for the work in an acoustic bubble so that nobody in that room would feel the sharpness of a Black woman who was right. And we're all on different areas at the lab, okay? We all come from different ethnic communities, okay? We show up differently. We don't always speak the same language. So just that you know, we aren't always speaking fucking English. We do everything to create expansion. And instead of expanding with my peers, I padded everything and I kind of folded into myself. And we started talking about something else. And someone turned and said, hey, Sally, you're really quiet. And I was like, you know what, guys? I actually have now experienced, and I had said actually, and I said, you know what, tell me to take the actually out because I'm undermining myself. I have just experienced something very profound that I can't put into words. And it's something along how we elude ourselves out of our own happiness. And then I was able to put it together. I said, we shrink ourselves, man. Well, I'm out here shrinking. We work together all the time. And even with my other team, work together all the time. And I found where I was shrinking, and I did what I call, or what my mentor muse, Tracy Stanley, calls a timeline rewind, a practice that allows you to go back in time. It's a meditative practice. Maybe this week I might drop it. We don't know. It's a practice that allows you to go back and find where some of the bugs that are on your windshield came from, how they end up here, right? And you know that Adrienne Marie Brown, let me say her name 3 times, amazing, and has created spaces and openings and has erased certain lines so that the work that I'm presenting has a place to land. And she's done something very profound in emergent strategy where she wrote that small is good, small is all. And that what we do at the small scale, okay, a little itty bitty scale, sets the pattern for the whole system. And in that moment, when I was with my crew, I was like, y'all, so if I'm shrinking myself in one sentence with y'all that have been with me for like day ones in one meeting, what fucking pattern am I setting for the entire architecture of my voice? Right? Because I just thank you all for coming and listening to me for these many episodes and why I make it 20 minutes. So my voice can fill the space that you're in, your aural space, Aural, so your hearing space, the spaces that you allow my voice to be in the rooms that you're listening. And I was like, if I'm doing that, what pattern am I setting for the entire architecture of my voice? What am I teaching the systems that I'm infiltrating about what I'm worth, right? 3 words, just maybe look at. Those 3 words hit me like an atom bomb, pun not intended, because I know we've woken up into whatever. We could do someone actually asked me to do a full episode on the person who I shall not name on my show, kind of like Voldemort. That's the reason why I'm not saying that person's name. They said you should do a whole episode and break down that architecture. Yo, we might be going there. Anyway, I said, but and also not anytime soon, because we are looking at how we weaponize words against ourselves. And I realized that in the way we speak, we teach individuals how to be with us. Now, they don't actually teach this to us in schools. Like, they teach us to label the feeling, label a thing. I'm sad, I'm happy, I'm angry, I'm cold, I'm hungry, I. And you're also teaching, like, the other person is here, I. And we are never taught how to put these words in an equation, in a sentence, so that our being, right, the meat sacks that we're in, feels what we're saying actually. And I'm not going to take that word out. I'm not going to, and I'm going to, because it's not an argument. I'm not arguing with anybody. I'm not trying to get the power on my side. So that this being can feel how those words land. We're never taught how what we say lands with somebody else. We're told sticks and stones may break your bones and words can never hurt me. They actually say, but words can never hurt me. You hear that? Sticks and stones can break your bones, but words can never hurt me. You've just taught me something that's eradicating the first thing. Sticks and stones can break my bones, but words can never hurt me. So you just told me all these things can hurt me. Go back, timeline rewind yourselves, minus the practice. Just take a little timeline rewind through your memory to find these little areas. And we start to put together and realize, hey, I was never taught the mathematics of language. And that, in essence, is I was never taught how to eloquate and enunciate my worth. I was taught to shrink. And so now, today, we've been talking 14 minutes in, these are called passive blockers. So the actual word for it, what's the actual scientific word for it? It's called a passive blocker. And a passive blocker is the language of self-minimization. It's the architecture of shrinking, how to make yourself invisible, how to be a wallflower, right? That's what a passive blocker is. In our last episode, we all defined that linguistic blockers are phrases that sound like communication and function as barricades. Okay? So today we're looking at linguistic blockers, again, that sound like communication and function in ways that minimize the self. We talk about self-realization in yogic practices. We go into yoga first to be bendy, and then somewhere along the line in the bendiness, something happens. And we start realizing certain things. We start becoming sensitive, aware, in tune, in touch, whatever yogic word or wellness word people are throwing at it these days. We start to realize, hey, this isn't really what it is. This isn't really what it seems. We've looked together over episodes at asamita, okay, the ego's need to protect itself. We looked at avidya, right, which is ignorance, the refusal to hold complexity. And we look at how it hijacks our vocabulary to shut down the room. Last week, actually, I'll just do it myself. Weaponized politeness. These are all ways that we hijack vocabulary, taking prisoners of the folks in the room with what we're saying. Now, if this is hitting you hard because of what's happening in the world today, it means this is the time for you to hear it and maybe have your aha moment of the day and then be like, oh, I had a minute of enlightenment on Tatum's show today. Okay. And then we keep going because now we have to apply it. We can't unsee it anymore. We're going a bit deeper in this episode, because episode 10, because the passive blocker doesn't shut down the room. It shuts you down right away. It doesn't erase the other person. That's not what the passive blocker does, right? It erases yourself. And it's so quiet and so polite and so habitual. Like me, you would not even be aware or notice that you're doing it. And I guarantee you today, folks. Shout out to my girl, Kitsy. I hope she's listening. You're going to be very aware of it after this episode today. And my hope and my wish is that the whole week you're so aware of it. Fuck what I told you last week. I told you about the weapons you're using out there, but to be able to really grasp, I want you to feel the weapons you use on yourself. And it becomes more real. All right? I want you to feel how you're actually erasing your brilliance day in and day out. And maybe, I'm not shrinking because I said and first, we start to realize how much more we're worth. I want to bring the emergent strategy back into the conversation for a minute because it's brilliant. The framework there is the skeleton key to understanding why this matters beyond the personal. Okay? We are fractal beings, multi-dimensional beings. Am I going to go all the way out there? No. A fractal, guys, as I said to you, I'm a pattern. I like to find patterns. A fractal is a pattern that repeats at every scale. So the way we look at a fern leaf looks like the whole fern, right? If you go and pull a fern leaf right now, look at the whole fern. The way a river tributary, so as it, if you know, what's a tributary? I learned that word in school. You know how it kind of goes off, right? Looks like the whole river system. That little stream meandering is a copy of the actual river system. The way that we are at the small scale is the way that we are at the large scale. How we are in a conversation is how we are in community. How we are in community is how we are in a movement. So when you say, I just think, instead of, I recommend, that's not a small thing. That's a fractal. That pattern of shrinking will repeat itself in every room you walk into. Every relationship you negotiate, every opportunity you almost reach for but pull your hand back from, because the body has recognized that you have said the small is all. Now, in the kleshas, right? Well, kleshas are what we've been talking about. So I gave you two kleshas before, avidya, asamita, there's dervesha. And in the tantric framework that we've been using, or that I've been privileged to be using or participating in, especially within this series, this shrinking maps to abhinivesha. It's a word that's so hard for me to say. Abhinivesha. Abhinivesha is the clinging, so make your hands in the fist, the clinging to survival. It's the deep fear of annihilation. Does it sound familiar, folks, right now, March 8th, 2026? 8 days into a situation that none of us asked for. Not physical death. But what I was just talking about, though, if you think about it, if you extrapolate it all the way into the big world, yeah. But not physical death. Abhinisha, the clinging to survival, the fear of annihilation, it's the identity death. The who you are death. The I am this death out in the world. It's the fear that if I take up too much space, if I'm too loud, too clear, too certain, I will be punished for it. I don't know how I'm going to be punished for it. I just know somewhere in my physical in my mental, I have created a structure where if I do this, I'm going to get punished for this. I'll be exiled from the group. So I shrink. Not because I lack intelligence, but because my nervous system has been trained time and time again, year after year, to equate visibility, being visible out there. You can see me, woohoo, with danger. Timeline rewind. And I could tell you exactly what for me when this happened. I was always tall. As a matter of fact, I've always been tall. When I was younger, I had buck teeth. I like to say my dad did me the biggest favor and not in high school. He made sure I had braces, glasses, and headgear. Do you know what that's like in the 90s? In 1989, 1990, I think I went to high school in 1991, 1992. Braces, glasses, headgear. The headgear that wraps outside your head, okay? So I had a thing outside that connected to my braces in my mouth, and I had these green spectacles, circles. Well, not 5'10" then. I was taller than all the boys. And at the time, my parents decided to put me into a French immersion for the first year of high school. I had only been in English high school, English school up to that point. So I was like, huh? But in school, I knew I was smart. They said, actually, not disclaimer. They told my mom, I used to be in this class called free flow, because at the time they didn't have a word for high functioning autism. And they told my mom she would never read. She would always be in remedial classes. She's not going to do math, all this stuff. And this is Quebec in the 80s. Parents immigrated here from Trinidad. We are people of color, Black people, brown people, all these things going on. And I'm hearing all of this. And at home, I had my private little world. My room was filled with books. My mother told me I was beautiful, I was smart, I was worth something, like every day, every minute. My mother, everything. My father was always like, I want you to remember, you're Black, you're a woman, and you're not French. And you live in this province. Shrink much? Now, they're saying these things to save me, to not have me experience what they experienced coming out of the West Indies. If you guys don't know, the Caribbean, amazing place, extremely colorist, still working on a lot of stuff down there. Okay. Parents are very aware, didn't coming out here, didn't want their children to experience any of these things. So how do I prepare them? Let me tell them the truth as it is, so nobody else could tell them something. My dad's whole point was, he's like, I don't want anybody out there telling you you're Black. You know you're Black. Don't let anybody ever tell you that. So in a sense, is he telling me to shrink? Yes. Woman, not French or in Quebec. Is he telling me to break, like kick through the barrier? Yeah. So two conflicting messages happening at the same time, both and somehow through time and just through contact, through experiencing other people, we equate visibility with danger, especially young Black women coming up in the 90s. We all know what's going on in the 90s. Now, where it becomes even more pivotal is for Black and brown women. As I was saying, the training didn't start with me, right? Folks, a lot of our folks immigrated here, or you were born in America, in North America, whether you're born in Canada or not. Historically, Black folks from the Americas. This that I've shared with you, this is what we call ancestral architecture. What that means is a generational code, okay? So it's so embedded in the being, hardwired into the DNA, that it will be passed down through verbiage or just through children regarding their, I said regarding, you could tell the franglaism, and I'm completely out of phone. Children looking at their elders, and they understand a lot more than we give them credit for. I'm going to pull it out of the shadows for a minute. I want to give you 3 passive blockers, okay, and show you how they operate across this fractal field, at work, at home, and in your inner monologue. Because I've went deep with you with myself, so you can see how I have gone timeline rewind. And I want you to notice what your body does when you hear these things. I want you to notice if your jaw tightens, if your shoulders start to creep towards your ears, if you start to make fists, if you're clenching your teeth, any of the little eyebrow up in the air, if you're verbally answering me back, which I know a lot of you do because it's conversational. Be aware of how your body's feeling. Let's look at the first one. Passive blocker number 1 is we call it the minimizer at the lab. We call it just. Not justice, just. So at work, here's the move. I just think we could look at the data. I'm just following up with you. I just want to check in, see if everything's okay. Now, the architecture behind this, or the structure behind this, is just is an apology for fucking existing in the room. Did I throw an F-bomb in there? Yes, because another 21st century philosopher, Lauryn Hill, said, I'm a motherfucker so the ignorant niggas hear me, right? She's cussing. In essence, my grandfather told my mother the same thing. I'll tell you that story another time. Just dilutes the kinetic energy right away. So you're coming in with your straight line, you know what you're going to say. Proven, you research up all night. And the word just dilutes that energy before it even lands. So you're coming with the thing, you throw just in there, energy dilution. What it does to the listener, so the person receiving you, it tells them, please don't be threatened by me having an opinion. Please don't be mad at me for taking up space. It's the preemptive surrender, right? At home, what does this look like? Your partner asks you, what do you need? What do you need? I just need 5 minutes. Just give me 5 minutes in the bathroom. Just give me 5 minutes on the floor. Just give me 5 minutes with the water hitting me. Well, what we actually need is an hour alone. And I use the word actually. Am I disarming myself? What we need is an hour alone. What we need is a real conversation about division of labor. Or for someone to take the entire mental load off your plate for an hour, 5 minutes, an evening. When we put the just in front of there, when we're talking to the people that we love, we're basically shrinking. I'm not important. My needs aren't important. My mental health isn't important right now. The architecture here is the just minimizes your need before the other person even has a chance to respond. So when my hubs ask me something, I literally try and check myself and I don't put just in there. I need an hour. I need to take a walk. I have really tried to minimize the just because it doesn't allow him a chance to respond. What it says to everything else, especially me, is that I'm negotiating against myself. I am shrinking my ask before it hits the air because I already have decided that I don't deserve the energy, the time of the full request. I bet you that hit you. The inner monologue. This is what we say to ourselves inside. I'm just a writer, just a researcher. I'm just a mom. I'm just figuring it all out. I'm just trying to get some clarity on the situation. Now, this is where the fractal breaks down in the architecture, my friends. This is what they call the seed pattern. If you minimize yourself in your own mind, you will be minimizing yourself in every single room you enter. The just inside your head is the blueprint for the just everywhere else. Did I drop a bomb on y'all? Yeah, I did. Because now y'all are like, yo, what? I'm not doing that. I bet some of you now are fighting with me. Selena, I just don't do that. Selena, you just don't get it. So Selena, you're just the fuck out of your mind. I'm pretty sure some of you are screaming back at me right now. That's what I want. What the heat that you're feeling, that's my intention. Because that heat will make you burn it up. You don't need it anymore. Okay? Pastor blocker number 2, we call it the buffer. Like and so at work. So, or anywhere. So I was like wondering if we could look at the Q data and maybe like flag the outliers. So like I was wondering. So the architecture here, like and so sneaky. So sneaky. Because those of you around my age, you remember we used to hear people use the word like all the time. Like, okay, legally blonde much, right? So and like are what we call acoustic shock absorbers, right? Shock absorbers, if your shock's on your car, right? You know they are the padding of sharp edges. So I'm saying that. So I'm going to give you a shock absorber right now. You're padding the sharp edges of a declarative sentence because you're afraid of the rupture. You're afraid to break something, right? You're afraid that the clarity that you're bringing to the situation will create such a conflict. So you put pretty pillows around your words. And the result is what we call structural hesitation or hesitation. People hear the padding, they hear the like, so they don't hear the point. Whatever it is you are coming with all that strength and all that clarity, they ain't hearing that. They ain't hearing that. They're hearing the padding. At home, it sounds like this. You're trying to tell your partner or whoever, your roommate, whatever, something super important. Like, super important. So I just put like in there, a buffering. And you say, so like, you know what, honey, I've been thinking. Or it's like, so like, you know what, Simone, I've been thinking about cutting my hair and like, I don't know, like, so like, if I think about, should I cut my hair? Should I braid it? Right there, what the hell has just happened? Right there, what's happening is you're giving your partner, your roommate, someone in your community, your hairdresser, you're giving them an exit ramp before you even deliver the message. Before you even say, I want to dye my hair pink, you're giving them a way to get off that highway with you and be like, you're signaling, so deeper meaning, you're signaling to yourself and the other person's nervous system, because this is what communication is, right? It's like we're holding a string taut between each other. You're signaling that you don't even take your own thoughts seriously. You don't even take yourself seriously. And if you don't take yourself seriously, why should they? Right? The inner monologue. And we're going to call these anti-mantras because I talk about it a lot. And this is precisely, those of you who are like, what is an anti-mantra? You can't say that in the first couple episodes. I don't know what it is. These, the buts, actuallys, per my last email. So, like, just if you could, those are all anti-mantras. Those are all words that we learned. We learned that but is a conjunction and add something else. We didn't learn how to use these things in an equation that works for the nervous system, or how these words land in the nervous system. The inner monologue of like and so is that inner voice that narrates your ideas is, I don't know, it's like sort of, maybe I'm thinking, the architecture of this is the importance of being intentional at every scale. Intentionality requires clarity. To be intentional about something, for me to be intentional about this podcast, it means I had to figure out how I'm going to do this, draw a whole architecture around how I'm going to present these ideas that seem so liminal but are huge. Intentionality requires clarity. I need to get clear on what I want to talk about. Buffers. Like, so those are the enemy of intentionality. Buffers rob the intention out of the room. They're fog machines inside your own thinking. You just fogging up your whole system. You can't build yourself a strategy, okay, guys, on a foundation of like, sort of, maybe the foundation won't be there. Transitions will be there. Uncertainty, fog will be there. Putting a pin in it will be there. Everything else isn't going to be there. Passive blocker number 3, the consensus beggar. Right? Right? You know? At work, present a finding in a team meeting. Strong evidence-based finding. Did all the work. The math is mathing. Whole thing. You've got everything together, coming down to the end of the presentation. Right? You see how we know how to intonate it and put the question mark on there. This is the ultimate, the right is the ultimate false circle. You drew a beautiful, sovereign design, straight line. Everything's in there. You're locked in. And because you're terrified of standing alone on that hill, because the nervous system whispers that standing alone means you're exiled, you hook a question mark onto the end and drag the room into a consensus loop. You are begging for validation instead of claiming your ground, right? At home, talking to your kids, your partner, roommates, community, however you're living in 2026. You're telling them the plan for the day. And you end with, okay, hey, can you go get your clothes together, put your switch into your bag, get your boots on so we can be out of the door in 5 minutes, okay? When it's, I actually didn't ask them a question, or you are not asking your kids a question, or your roommates, or whoever. You're outsourcing your certainty. You're handing the other person, man, woman, or child, the power to validate or invalidate your experience. I am telling you to get your stuff together. This is not a question. I need you to get your stuff together so we can move on. And in adding that okay at the end of it, I am validating my whole experience with you. And when they don't respond, okay, the way that you need. So the way you need to, did you get it? When they shrug, or they look at their phone, or they look at the floor, or they look somewhere else, you feel everything drop out from underneath you. Maybe you don't, because the dropout is then followed by a bit of rage, right? You drop it, and then the rage comes in. The reason for this is because we've built the floor out of the approval instead of your own conviction. So the floor is made out of their okay, like their answer to the okay. I can't build, my husband does carpentry things. I don't. You can't build a functional floor on like clay or sand. All right? Even me. And I'm in this podcast. I said it's gonna be 20 minutes. I've taken up so much of your time. So we will try to wrap this up. But this was an important episode. It's episode 10. So I will actually take you where we need to go. The inner monologue with all this, guys. And this is the anti-mantra, the inner monologue. This is what you're telling yourself. Instead of giving yourself a Om Mani Padme Hum, you're giving yourself, okay, just so, actually, but this is what you're doing. The inner monologue is having a beautiful, clear thought, an insight, a creative idea, a boundary you need to set, and immediately following it was, but I don't know. We all are consensus begging with ourselves. We're asking the room or the voice inside our head to co-sign off on whatever it is before you'll actually trust your own knowing. And this is why this one is actually deeper than the others. There's a part of you inside of you that knows what it knows that it knows. This right here is asking not that part to co-sign. The running monologue that we have in our heads, the ego, we're asking that to co-sign before we'll ask what's behind the sternum. We don't trust our own knowing. We call this in the lab the failure of interdependence, because real interdependence requires that you bring your whole self into relationship, into any ship, not half self-seeking permission, not a diluted self of hoping someone else will finish the sentence for me, hoping someone else will know what I feel, what I think without me even saying it. And if you scroll back a few episodes, The Architecture of Silence, you see where this kind of starts to take hold. Let's look at the antidote, because this episode was layered and it's designed to be that way. Last week, our antidote, right? So these what I like to call, Glaciers, what I like to call tiny bits of resistance that we have to living a full life. Just like so, okay? Are tiny bits of resistance that we have to living our full lives. And when I say live our full lives, I mean being absolutely involved and interested with whatever, which means you're 100% there, right? So last week, the antidote was the and protocol. We looked at, instead of using but as a weapon, actually, I'm fine, per my last email, we were using and. We were using the and protocol, right? We were using being an expander instead of a blocker. Article of resistance is expansion. We're replacing but and to hold two truths in the room at the same time. This week, the antidote is simpler. The material, what we talked about, is harder, more crunchy to take in. The antidote is simpler. The antidote is also harder. We call it here in the lab, we call it the drop the tail protocol. Right? You're dropping your tail. So think of peacock, blue, blow. We're dropping that tail. So we're going to bring all of our beautiful plume feathers in. And here's what I mean. Every passive blocker that we talked about has a tail. Just is the tail. Like is the tail. Right? Is the tail. So is the tail. These are appendages that we have attached. We've seen how we do it to a perfectly good sentence because we're afraid to let that sentence stand on its own. The protocol is this. Say the sentence. Say it out loud. Whatever it is you've been saying to me, just say it out loud. Then stop. Count to 10. Count to 30. Count to 5. Let the period land. Sit in silence. The data shows a 15% drop in resolution time, right? The data shows a 15% drop in resolution time. Point and period final. Ça finit là. Did you feel it though? Feel what happens in your body when the sentence just ends. When there's no tail to hide behind. Your stomach might go, bloop. Your throat might tighten. And this is what Abhinavasha feels like. So it's important that we feel the kleshas. We know what they feel like in our bodies. They might not all feel the same. We might not all be like, oh my God, I'm plunging during Abhinavasha. There's a feeling happening. And that's the fear of being fully seen without a buffer. We want to sit in it. I had a teacher once that said, brilliant guy, his name is David G. He said, are you able to allow yourself to sit and let the mud settle? Can you do that? Brilliant guy. I want you to sit in that discomfort because discomfort is a sensation of taking up your space. You're taking up your space. You're allowed to take up space. You're here on earth to take up some space. Take up your space. The importance of fractal responsibility is this, guys. Each of us is responsible for the patterns we set at the smallest scale because those patterns become the architecture of everything larger. Your sentences or your sentence is the smallest scale. Your sentence is the seed. If you can learn to let a sentence land without a tail, you are restructuring the entire fractal of your voice. So this week, I want you to practice. Pick one day, just anyone. And every time you catch yourself reaching for a just, a like, a right, every time you catch yourself reaching for a tail, I want you to drop it. Let the sentence end where it was always supposed to end. Notice what happens in your body. Notice what happens in the room. And journal about it if you can. And if you catch it after it's already out of your mouth, that's okay. Awareness, y'all. Awareness is the first fractal. Awareness is the first moment of expansion. You don't have to be perfect. You don't have to take everything I'm saying Tatum sack, but bring it together this week. No, all of that, what we've been talking about over the winter season, moving into spring, builds on the last one. So you're consistently building. If you're like, yo, I'm still in silence, Selena, stay there until you feel that fractal shift. You have to notice the pattern. That's all. That's all we talk. Just notice. Just notice the pattern. And take the tail out. Notice the pattern. Once you see it, you can't unsee it. And that's where the whole redesign begins. That's the whole antidote takes hold, whole thing. So bringing it down to end, folks. Last week we eclipsed the linguistic blockers, our missiles, our anti-mantras that we aim at other people. So all that stuff, again, all these things, linguistic blockers, aka anti-mantras, heat-seeking missiles that we aim at other people. This week, we're eclipsing the ones that we aim at ourselves. The just, the like, right? So the quiet, habitual architectures of making ourselves smaller so that the room doesn't have to stretch. But you know what? And you know what? The room's going to stretch, y'all, because we're going to expand it. What you pay attention to grows. They say that in the yoga world, the guru world, say it everywhere. Pay attention to your language this week, not with judgment, with curiosity, with a sense of tending. Because this work that we're doing is grief. I just haven't come out here and said, we're doing grief work, y'all. We're grieving collectively. And this is part of it. You need to grieve all the rooms where you've made yourself smaller than you actually are. I want you to journal about that. I want you to hold tiny little funerals for every time you've made yourself smaller than you actually are. No, I want you to hold awake, because now you're awake to the fact that, hey, over there that happened and they tried to bury me in there. I have resurrected. I am awake. You are not just anything. You are not like, sort of, maybe. You are not a question mark at the end of your own sentence, y'all. You are the period. Point final. That is it. This has been the Empathy Lab. I want you guys to take care of yourselves. I want you to take care of each other. I want you to stay hydrated. And I want you to create space for yourself, in so much you create space for others. You are the period. I'll see you next week. Thanks for tuning in for 10 episodes. Stay anchored. We'll meet again soon.